to ask Jeannie Economos to come up next. She is the pesticide director of the Farmworkers Association of Florida. I know I've got the title wrong, but I know it's got something to do with pesticides. And she's a long-time activist, I think over 15 years, working to support farm workers. And I'm very proud to have her accept her invitation to speak here tonight. You're going to walk around again? Okay.
Okay, thanks. So this is going to be a little bit different. How many people had lunch today? How many people had to grow their own food? Did you? Yeah. Did you grow enough to feed everybody on the table? No? So where did you get your lunch today? Publix? Yeah. Pet store? Okay, people don't really think about that. You would not be here right now sitting in this room today if you had to worry about where your next meal is coming from. Okay, but you don't have to worry about where your next meal is coming from because somebody's out there doing that work for you, for us, for all of us, and that's the farm workers. Not the farmers, not the people that own the farms, but the farm workers, the people that are out there picking the oranges, picking the tomatoes, picking the beans, picking the carrots, and the potatoes, and the onions that we all eat. And including the people that work in the meat processing plants. We can do our other work because we don't have to worry about where our food is. That's real important to think about.
Yeah.
We would not be able to sit in our office or do whatever else we do to try and protect the environment or whatever else we do if we had to worry about where our meals were coming from. But we don't because we have farm workers that are looking after them for us. Farm workers who are not covered under the National Labor Relations Act. When they passed the National Labor Relations Act in 1935, farm workers and domestic workers were the two groups of workers that were deliberately excluded from the National Labor Relations Act. Because agribusiness, at that time there was agribusiness, it was so powerful that they were deliberately excluded from the National Labor Relations Act and from the Fair Labor Standards. That's really important to understand. Why am I saying all this? Okay, because one thing that we haven't been looking at in terms of the TPP is that what's going to affect on agriculture. Is it going to affect workers? I think we know it's going to affect workers. I think there's lots of labor unions around the country that are very concerned about how it's going to impact jobs and labor in the United States and around the world. I think there's lots of environmental groups that have been very concerned about what's going to happen environmentally if the TPP is passed. But not many people are looking at what's going to happen to agriculture. And that's really significant. The Farmworkers Association of Florida is not just an organization in Florida that fights for farm worker rights. We're also a member of an international coalition of groups called La Via Campesina. And La Via Campesina fights not just for farm workers in the United States and in Florida, but for subsistence, peasant farmers, farm workers, and land-based peoples, including indigenous peoples around the world. And we haven't looked at how the TPP is going to affect indigenous peoples and land-based peoples. Okay, our organization, I work on pesticide issues, so that's a little bit different, okay? And that's a whole other issue. And don't touch that button because I can talk for hours about that. And you don't want me to go there, okay? So I work on pesticide issues, but we also work on immigration issues too. And when people talk to me about, oh, those stupid immigrants, they're taking our jobs, and we need to send them all back home, and what are they doing here? And they're illegal because they shouldn't be here, right? Those illegal aliens that shouldn't be here. Okay, well, let me tell you something, brothers and sisters. You cannot intend to move global capital around the world. That's what we're doing. We're moving global capital around the world and not expect people to move with that. If we tell companies that they can move their money all around the world, but people can't move around the world, we got something wrong with that picture. Okay? And in terms of NAFTA, people that are anti-immigrant are saying that those immigrants, I've been in, no offense, but I've been in environmental meetings before where I've had environmentalists jump all over me because they say that it's immigrants in this country, we have to stop the immigrants because they're causing the environment to go bad in this country. Well, let me tell you something, most of the immigrants I've worked with are pretty poor, and they use a whole lot less resources than some non-immigrant people that I know that are building little McMansions in College Park that just drive me crazy. So that's another story, we won't go there, we won't go there.
He's moving all over
The
the
reality
place.
is that after NAFTA was passed in the United States,
It's like moving
the
faster
level
than I
of
do.
immigration to this country increased exponentially. And NAFTA, and that happened because people in Mexico could no longer live their subsistence way of life. It destroyed families in Mexico, it destroyed communities in Mexico, it destroyed subsistence agriculture in Mexico. If this TPP goes through, what is that going to do to land-based peoples, indigenous peoples, farm workers, peasant farmers, farm workers in this country around the world? So that's a little bit different take. I'm not going to, I just going to go on and on, but that's a little bit different take on looking at the TPP. Because when you affect the environment, when you affect jobs, when you affect capital, you're affecting, you know, a significant amount of communities that are the unseen communities, the invisible ones that we don't really think about, that are, you know, in the world, and they're the ones. Women around the world are the ones that are feeding their families through agriculture. Not more than big business, more than big agribusiness. They're the ones that are really supporting millions of people around the world that are really off of our radar screen. So our organization, me personally, I'm very opposed to the TPP, but our organization is also very opposed, and we've been fighting against the TPP in coalition with other organizations, especially La Via Campesina. And I really highly recommend that you Google La Via Campesina.
How do you spell that?
L-A, and then Via, V-I-A, and then Campesina, C-A-M-P-E-S-I-N-A. It's a really, and just so you know, because a lot of people don't know about this, La Via Campesina was at in Durban, South Africa. They organized people against climate change, you know, anti-climate change conferences and things like that. So it's a really excellent organization that supports land-based people. So thank you very much.
The Via Campesina, do they have an office in Orlando?
They don't have an office here, no. They're international. There's only like 3 or 4 organizations in the United States that are members of La Via Campesina. It's international. We're one of the few organizations in the U.S. that's a member of La Via Campesina.
That's the Farmworkers that are a member, or who's?
The Farmworkers Association of Florida, our organization is a member of La Via Campesina. But Google it, because it's
Does Yaya work with you guys?
Yes.
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 Okay, that's good. Are they two separate entities?
We're separate entities, but we work very closely together.
Yeah, exactly. I'm the state coordinator of YAYA. We work in solidarity with the Farmworkers Association and other farm worker organizations in the state of Florida and across the country.
Do you fall under being part of La Via Campesina?
No.
No. Okay.
Thank you.